Hello there, guys. Welcome back to another video. Today's July 15th, and today we're going to be talking about the 2024 presidential election if the nominees were to be former President Donald Trump and incumbent President Joe Biden. So, before we talk about 24, let's just talk about what we're going to expect. So, I expect that this race is going to be very close because President Biden is an unpopular president, and so is President Trump. And just looking at the electoral map and knowing which state is going to go to whom, we can tell this race is going to be pretty close. And even some of the smallest states can decide which way the election will head. Going back to 2020, um, this was a map, and I know we all expected like a lot more states to go to Joe Biden, like Florida and North Carolina, but no, these states remain Trump territory, and states like Ohio remain Trump +8, Iowa remained Trump +8, but we saw Kansas and especially Texas moving to the left. Alaska only voted for Trump by 10. But even on the Biden side, we should have saw like more extensive victories. Nevada, could have gone more to Biden. Michigan, Pennsylvania could have gone more. But looking at Pennsylvania, Biden only carried the state by a point. Biden carried Michigan by 3 points. Biden carried Nevada by 2 points. And looking at other states, Wisconsin only went to Biden by 0.63. Arizona went by zero point 0.3, and Georgia went by zero point 0.2. So we saw that this election, just by looking at the states, was pretty close, honestly, and the vote separation, like if Trump were to flip Georgia or Arizona, maybe not Wisconsin, but let's say if he flipped Arizona and Georgia in those few 10,000 votes or more, then yeah, we could have seen the 2020 election be pretty close. Apparently not. Biden did win 306 at Trump's 232, but we can see 2024 is going to be a real nail biter, this one. So first, let's move to the safe states. For Joe Biden, Washington, California, Hawaii, Illinois. Illinois could go likely, but the thing is, Illinois has always been voting within the 17-point range. So Clinton won by 17 and Biden also won by 17. I expect it to remain the same. Not much to say about Illinois. New York, pretty much almost all of New England. Um, yeah, yeah, even New Jersey, I think it's going to go safe, even though Governor Murphy won by about 3 points. It doesn't look like Trump will be pulling New Jersey his way. I think he'll still be around the 15, 16 point range in New Jersey, and of course, Maine's first district. Um, Trump states, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, both the Dakotas. Um, Kansas, yes, we saw in 2020, Kansas did go just slightly into the likely column, voting by Trump by 14.6 points, but it does not look like it's going to repeat itself given Biden's unpopularity and Trump's surge in polls. I think Kansas will go safe too, as will Oklahoma. Indiana as well. I don't think Indiana is going to go likely. It did vote Trump by about 16 points, whereas in 2016 it voted by 19. But I think it'll vote in like the upper 17s, 18 range this time. Of course, West Virginia and South Carolina. I'm gonna give South Carolina a safe too, just because saw in 2016 Trump did win the state by 14.3 points. And in 2020, yes, he did win by 11.7, but he was very unpopular there, and people saw Biden as like the alternative to Trump, and people were voting for Biden in 2020. Um, but as we saw in back in 22, both Governor Henry McMaster and Senator Tim Scott, they both won by solid margins, and I think this will continue at least until 24. So I think Trump can carry South Carolina by a solid margin, and we do see I have, oh, of course, Utah. How could I forget about Utah? All right. So these are the solid states. We see 122 for Trump and 173 for Biden. So now we'll fill in the likely states for Biden. Start with Oregon. There's nothing much to say here. Oregon's not voting for Trump, nor will it be close, but I believe it'll vote for Joe Biden by the double digits, but not just the by the solid margins, but it will go to Biden, Oregon. Next two states, Colorado and New Mexico. Both these states voted for Clinton by 8 and 5. And we see in 2020, Biden won Colorado by 13 and a half and New Mexico by about 11 points. Um, I expect it to remain there. I hear people saying that, oh yeah, Colorado's going to go like really solid. I don't think so. Governor Jared Polis is a popular governor in Colorado. He did manage to win by a safe margin, but Biden isn't as popular as Polis in Colorado, and I think he'll just win by the likely margin. It'll probably be a double digit margin, but it'll be likely. Moving on, I think Virginia will go to Biden by double digits. We see Trump is not very popular in Virginia. Um, a lot of Trump, a lot of Trump endorsed candidates didn't see victories in 22. Yes, Youngkin did win, but looking at 22, um, candidates in the U.S. House of Representatives in the Virginia state, they did not do as well. Like in Virginia 7th and Virginia's 10th, they didn't do as well there. Biden did carry the state by 10 points going back to 16. Clinton did win by 5 points. I think we can see Virginia going in 8, 9 point range for Joe Biden. So I think Virginia will remain in the likely column. Uh, Minnesota, I think will also go likely. Um, yeah, those are the only likely states we'll be giving to Joe Biden. Um, Trump's likely states. We'll start with Alaska. We see Alaska with its leftward shift. It did elect a Democratic Congresswoman, Mary Peltola. She did win re-election in 22 by about 10 points, defeating Sarah Palin. Um, So we can see Alaska's leftward trend. We see in 12 it voted for Romney by about 14. 2016 it still remained a likely column voting for Trump by 14.7, but then in 2020 we see it voted for Trump by 10 points. I think Alaska will remain in the double digit column, but not solid, but a likely margin. In Alaska, the next two states I'll give Iowa and Ohio. There's nothing much to say here. Trump won these states both times. Pretty well actually. 2016 he won Iowa by 9.4 and Ohio by 8, and around the same margins in 2020. 8 points in Iowa and 8 points in Ohio. Even though the majority of the country went to the left, Iowa and Ohio remained in its normal 8 point ranges. So I don't see it. I don't see any of these two states going to Biden. I think if Trump were the nominee, I think he'd carry these states pretty comfortably. Along with Iowa and Ohio, I'm going to give Trump Florida. Yes, we see Florida was keyword was a high political battleground. Trump only won the state by 1.2 in 2016, and then he doubled that margin 4 years later, winning by about 3.4. Um, but looking 2 years ago, Governor Ron DeSantis, he won by about 19.4, and then Marco Rubio won by about 16 and a half points. So we see Florida's heavy rightward trend now. Biden is very unpopular in Florida, while Trump resides in Florida. He's pretty popular in Florida. So we can see Trump winning by a pretty comfortable margin in Florida. The last time a Republican won Florida by a likely margin was in 2004 when George Bush won by about 5 points after his razor thin margin 4 years ago, 4 years before that. Um, the last likely state I'll give to actually, the next likely state I'll give will be Texas. In 16, Trump won by 9 points, and then 4 years later in 2020, he only won by 5.6 points. Yes, Texas is heading left, but we can see that Biden's not very popular in Texas, whereas Trump did win by a pretty decent margin in 2020 in Texas by 5.6 points. Yes, it did vote to the left of Ohio and Iowa, but Still pretty comfortable, a likely margin for Donald Trump, and we can see Trump carrying Texas by around the same single digit margins, but it'll be likely in Texas. The last state, well, actually, the district I'm going to give to Trump, I'm going to give Maine's second district to Trump. Apparently, he's been doing well in these states. Going back to 2008, we see Obama winning this by 11, and then in 2012, he won by about 8.6 points. But in 2016, Trump flipped the district by winning by 10 points, and then 2020 by about 7.4 points. We see that Trump is apparently popular in this district, and I think that Trump will win Maine's second district by a likely margin, like he did in 2016 and 2020. I don't think Joe Biden will be flipping that district. Um, okay, the next we'll be going on to the lean states now. Um, let's first start with the state of New Hampshire. Um, Trump did come pretty close to winning it 6 years in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, but going to 2020, Biden won by a pretty comfortable margin, a higher margin than what Trump won Texas with. Biden won New Hampshire by 7.4 in 2020, and I don't think it'll go by a likely margin, but I think New Hampshire will be a Biden state. He's probably winning around the 4 point range. Um, I don't think Trump will carry New Hampshire. I think Biden will carry New Hampshire. So there's that. Um, and the next state I'll give Maine. Maine's remaining two electoral votes to Biden. There's nothing much to say here. Like Maine isn't that competitive. We see Biden winning by 9 points, but going back 4 years ago, Clinton won by 3 points. The Maine's normal district. Um, the whole state of Maine. Um, so I don't think Biden will win by a likely margin in Maine, but I think it will just slightly come down, maybe around the 4 point range, like neighboring New Hampshire. So yeah, there's that. Um, the next lean state I'll be giving to Joe Biden is the state of Michigan. 2 years ago, sorry, last November, in 2022, we saw Gretchen Whitmer winning re-election by an overwhelming double-digit margin against Trump-endorsed Tudor Dixon. We see Michigan going pretty left. Yes, Trump won the state by a pretty narrow margin. But going 2020, Biden won the state by 3 points. And we can see Biden winning the state, maybe not by 3 points, but it will be a lead margin in the state of Michigan. Um, so yeah, that is the lean state I'll be giving to Joe Biden. Trump, I will be giving Trump one state and one district. The first I'll give is Nebraska second. Trump won that district by 2 points in 2016, but in 2020 Biden pulled it, winning it by an astonishing 6.6 points. But the Nebraska legislator, they redrew that district to make it more red. So I don't think Joe Biden will be carrying that district. I think Trump will carry it by a lean margin, about what Representative Don Bacon won. So yeah, there's that. Nebraska's second district. The other state I'll be giving him is North Carolina. Yes, Trump did win by Trump did win North Carolina by a lean margin. I don't think Biden's going to be winning North Carolina anytime soon. Democrats have not been doing well in North Carolina, and I don't think they will win North Carolina in the presidential level, at least in 24. I think Trump will win the state. The governor's race, we don't know. The governor's race will definitely be closer than the presidential race. Um, because in 2016, even though Trump won North Carolina by about a 4 point margin, then Governor Pat McCrory lost to Governor Roy Cooper on the same ticket. So there's that. So yes, the governor's race in North Carolina may be closer, but the presidential race, North Carolina will lean toward Trump this time. Okay, so now we come down to the final four states of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania that will decide this election. We can see it's, according to my predictions, pretty heated. Donald Trump getting 236, Joe Biden having 240 electoral votes right now. Now we'll begin with the tilt states. So Joe Biden, actually, before we go on to Joe Biden, I will be giving Donald Trump some states because Joe Biden because the states I'm giving to Joe Biden will require a bit of an explanation. So the first state I will be giving to Trump is the state of Georgia. Yes, Trump did win Georgia by 5 points in 2016, but he lost Georgia to Biden. And going into the Senate race, Raphael Warnock won by 3 points against Trump endorsed Herschel Walker. So yes, Trump's handpicked candidate did not win the Senate race in Georgia, and um, uh, excuse me, my bad. And we can see Trump's not favored governor, Brian Kemp, did win by 7.5 points. Um, and yeah, so Georgia is like a purplish state. Yes, it has a Republican governor, two Democratic senators, and Trump's endorsed Senate candidate did not win the Senate race in last November. Um, But I think if Biden comes back on the ticket for Georgia, already we can see 2020, he didn't win by that much of a margin. So I think Georgia will just narrowly flip to Trump because Biden is unpopular on the ballot and the moderate voters in Georgia, I don't think they will I don't think they'll support Biden. I think they'll go back to backing Trump. But and because of that, I think Donald Trump will win Georgia just by a very, very, very narrow margin. Um, yeah, we can see that happening. Um, the next state I will be giving to Biden is, sorry, the next state I will be giving to Trump is the state of Wisconsin. Um, yeah, Trump did win Wisconsin by 0.76 of a margin, and then going to 2020, he lost Wisconsin by a smaller margin than he won Wisconsin. Biden won it by 0.63, which is less than Trump's 0.76 margin in 2016. Um, Yeah, we saw Senator Ron Johnson winning re-election, but only by a point, and we saw Trump's handpicked candidate for governor not winning the race, in Wisconsin, the governor's race. But but just like we saw in Georgia, again, if it's again, I don't think Wisconsin, those moderate voters in Wisconsin, I don't think they will be backing Biden in this election, and I think Wisconsin will just narrowly go to Trump because Wisconsin just narrowly goes either or. We saw in many of the elections, besides the Obama elections we saw in 2004, just John Kerry just narrowly won the state, and then 2000 Al Gore just narrowly won the state. So Wisconsin, like, it will tilt here or there. And because Biden is like unpopular, I think just those handful of voters will go to Trump, which will likely result him in winning the state narrowly. Yes, in 24, Senator Tammy Baldwin is up for re-election, but even though many voters may support her and looks like she may win her re-election as senator, I Wisconsin I think will just narrowly go to Trump. Um, and one more state I'll be giving to Trump, I'll be giving him the state of Nevada, just narrowly. We saw in 2016, 2020, um, Trump lost the state by around the same margin, 2.4 points. But Nevada is going to the right. Just as some other states may be going to the left, Nevada is going to the right. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto won re-election just by narrowly, and the Nevada voters, they kicked out Governor Steve Sisolak and they replaced him with Joe Lombardo. He won by a pretty lean margin. So we can see Nevada going to the right. And again, just like Wisconsin and Georgia, like the sub like just think about like Washoe County and Clark County in Nevada. Those counties are going to the right. They're not supporting Democrats as heavy as they did in previous elections. Like, um, Joe Lombardo won Nevada without carrying either Clark or Washoe County, the two highest populated counties in Nevada, which is extraordinary because those two counties, they have the voters, they have the votes. And yes, both those counties voted for Steve Sisolak, but not by enough to give Steve Sisolak re-election. Eventually, the whole state of Nevada, um, eventually the state of Nevada chose Joe Lombardo to be its next governor, even though he didn't win the two highest counties. So I think we can see that for happening for Donald Trump and Joe Biden, the unpopular president, especially in a state like Nevada that's going to the right. We can see Donald Trump just narrowly winning the state of Nevada, therefore flipping it to Donald Trump. Okay. The next state I'll be talking about Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, I think will go to Biden just by narrowly. Yes, we see like Nevada, Wisconsin, and Georgia. Those I keep talking about where like those handful of voters will go to Trump. I don't see that case happening in Pennsylvania just because Trump. So yes, in 2016, Trump won Pennsylvania by 0.72. That was the same year when Republican Senator Pat Toomey won by about a point. And then going 4 years later, Biden won Pennsylvania by a point. So we're like, okay, Pennsylvania is still going to be pretty competitive. But looking at 22, John Fetterman, John Fetterman isn't popular right now, but he won Pennsylvania by a 5 point margin. Looking at the governor's race, Josh Shapiro won by 15 points. And both of those candidates defeated Trump's handpicked candidates, which means, yes, it should have been close, but still, both those candidates won by pretty decent margins. And we see Trump's handpicked candidates didn't do well in Pennsylvania, which is why I think if it's a Trump versus Biden scenario, I don't think Trump can win Pennsylvania. I think Biden will just narrowly carry Pennsylvania by about, zero point 0.3, zero point 0.4 points. So I don't think Trump will be carrying Pennsylvania this time around. Okay. The right now with the count we have Trump 268, Joe Biden 259. The last state we will talk about is the state of Arizona, and it's 11 votes. So the state of Arizona is a pretty interesting state. We see in 26, we see, let's go back to 2008. John McCain won by 8.5. Going to 2012, Mitt Romney won by 9 points. Going to 2016, Arizona went sharply to the left. Trump only won by 3.5 points when Romney won by 9. And then in 2020, Arizona finally decided to support Biden. Biden only winning the state by about 11,000 votes or 0.31 points. Um, so we can see Arizona's marching leftward trend. Going to the Senate elections in 2020, Mark Kelly won by 2.3 points. Two years later, we see Mark Kelly winning by 5 points, again against a Trump picked candidate, Blake Masters. Going into the governor's race, Katie Hobbs, a Democrat, defeated Kari Lake, a Trump picked candidate, by 0.67 points. So we can see these Democrats are coming in. They're replacing the Senate seats. Democrats took the governorship of Arizona, just like how Republicans took Nevada. Democrats took Arizona. We can see Nevada and Arizona going in different directions. So, going here, we can see that Arizona will be according to my prediction, Arizona may be the bellwether for this election. The state of Arizona and Arizonans will decide which way the election goes. And this will be interesting for the state of Arizona because if Arizona supports Trump, that probably means the leftward movement is stopped, and Arizona is probably going to go back to the right. If Joe Biden wins the state, then we can see Arizona continuing to go to the left and supporting Democrats up and down the ballot. Um, yeah, so what was I going to mention? Oh, yes. The Senate election in 2024 with independent Kyrsten Sinema, that is going to be that is gonna influence who wins the state of Arizona, Trump or Biden. We can see Kirsten Kirsten Sinema, the independent, she's probably going to run for re-election. On the Democratic side, we got Congressman Ruben Gallego. He's running to unseat Kirsten Sinema. And then on the Republican side, we got many candidates. We got Mark Lamb, the Pinal County Sheriff, and we got Kari Lake, who lost to Katie Hobbs in November for the governorship. So Arizona is going to be, I think, the most watched state just because of the demographics and which way Arizona may head, at least politically. So right now, I think Joe Biden will just carry Arizona narrowly because we saw in November that Trump picked candidates, Blake Masters and Kari Lake. They did not win their respective elections in Arizona. And we can see that Donald Trump isn't as popular in Donald Trump isn't popular in Arizona, which means I think again these moderate Arizona voters, we see the demographics changing. We see a lot more people moving into Maricopa County, home to Phoenix. So I think these voters will just give Joe Biden the state, therefore making Joe Biden win the state of Arizona. So, thank you guys. This is my prediction. We see Trump with 268, Joe Biden with 270. And as of right now, we my prediction is that Joe Biden will win the election defeating Donald Trump. Yes, Joe Biden is unpopular, but there are a lot of states which will give Biden big victories. California, for example. Could Trump win California? Could Trump win New York? Could Trump win Illinois? No. But it's the smaller states that really matter. Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Um, we see a lot of these states, these small states that could move an election here or there, and that's like a specialty of the Electoral College. So we can see that according to this prediction that Joe Biden will win the election, just carrying 270 votes. Thank you guys. Hope to see you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.